Hi guys, my name is Nichelle Toma, and today I'm going to be talking to you about worker stress and organizational stressors. To define worker stress, it is a physiological and/or psychological response to a situation that is perceived to be threatening. Some of the causes of worker stress include the occupation itself, such as firefighting or nursing, individual characteristics, such as the type A personality, and it could also come from organizational operations such as work overload, interpersonal stress, lack of control, physical work conditions, and harassment. And these aren't the only causes of worker stress through organizational operations, but they're some of the causes that I will highlight today. For my own personal experience, I wanted to discuss my job as a server at Buffalo Wild Wings. And these 5 organizational operations were probably the most prominent causes of my own personal stress on the job. So on the job, there were a lot of instances of people calling out and understaffing, which caused a lot of work overload for many of the workers. There was also there were high instances of favoritism. We had a lot of turnover, so there were a lot of managers and employees coming and going throughout my time there. And we had a lot of young managers, a lot of young male managers who would have crushes on, date, become friends with a lot of young female employees who were then shown favoritism in the form of, better scheduling according to their availability. They would also be able to move up faster than other workers. So that caused a lot of interpersonal stress amongst the employees because the employees that weren't being favorited would feel upset towards the ones that were. Also on the job, there was horrible physical work conditions. We were expected to take care of an absurd amount of tables at a time. There were many instances where I would have 19 tables to myself on a busy day, and all of those 19 tables would be full, and I would be expected to give everyone excellent service, which is just impossible for anybody to do. And also, another organizational operation that caused me stress on the job was harassment. I actually experienced sexual harassment on the job, and when I notified 3 different managers on 5 different instances about this certain employee sexually harassing me, they kind of brushed it to the side, didn't really do anything about it until I threatened to quit. And then they got the regional manager involved, and even then, they didn't handle the situation very well. They kind of implied that I was either making it up or overreacting, which I wasn't. And instead of firing the guy, they decided to transfer him to a different location. So that was very stressful, and I felt like I had a lack of control on the job. Like, no matter what I did, it didn't matter. They were going to do what they wanted to do anyway. So some of the effects of worker stress that I want to highlight, which most of these happened to me, actually all of these happened to me, are mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, or emotional exhaustion, substance abuse and alcoholism, lowering in work performance, a higher level of absenteeism, and high levels of job burnout and voluntary turnover. An article that I found in the Journal of Applied Psychology by Thomas Wright and Russell Craponzo is titled Emotional Exhaustion as a Predictor of Job Performance and Voluntary Turnover. It basically focused on emotional exhaustion and positive affect, negative affect, and its relation to job satisfaction, job performance, and voluntary turnover. So to define emotional exhaustion, it's just physical and emotional depletion resulting from extreme and excessive job demands. And it is a key dimension of job burnout. It also impacts the quality of work life and the organizational functioning as a whole. So this study was over the span of a year. It focused on employees in a large city on the West Coast. They were all at the same organization, all had the same job title, and all had the same job duties. And so some of the hypotheses for this study were that job satisfaction, job performance, and positive affect would be negatively related to emotional exhaustion. Negative affect would be positively related to emotional exhaustion, and emotional exhaustion would be positively related to voluntary turnover. And overall, all these hypotheses would be significant even after controlling for positive and negative affect. The findings were that emotional exhaustion is not related to job satisfaction, but it is correlated with job performance. Also, they found that positive relationships between emotional exhaustion and negative affect and voluntary turnover were likely. They also found that positive affect was negatively related to emotional exhaustion, and that only emotional exhaustion is a significant predictor of job performance, not positive and negative affect. So they could not predict job satisfaction, only job performance and voluntary turnover through this study. So, given all of this information, some of the solutions that I came up with for my work problem at Buffalo Wild Wings would be to have better management training. Overall, I felt like a lot of the managers were not on the same page of procedures and how to handle situations. So if all of the managers were kind of on the same page, had a overall consensus of how to deal with things, it would have helped the company run smoother. I also felt like having a more supportive work environment would be better for everybody if employees felt as if their voices were heard and that their opinions mattered. They would have been more likely to not call out and to show up for their shifts and to work hard while on the job. I also think that scheduling was a huge issue. Having managers learn how to schedule properly and according to everyone's availability, and reducing, the amount of favoritism would help. And also, I think it's important in this job and in any job for all employees from the very top to the very bottom to have sexual harassment training so that there are clear guidelines on what is appropriate and what is inappropriate and what the consequences will be if one were to engage in any type of sexual harassment. So that's the end of my presentation. Here's a reference list, and thank you so much for your time.